The land lay dry and broken, deep cracks in the red soil glowing beneath the scorching sun. A lone, ancient-looking man with a weathered face stares up at a cloudless sky. The sound of a gentle, rhythmic drumbeat begins, soft and hopeful. Have you ever heard a story that makes the sky weep? A tale whispered not just by men, but by the very soil they walk upon? This is one such story. In the days when the earth still held its breath to listen to the wisdom of elders, there was a man named Okechi. He was not a king, nor a warrior, but he held a power far greater. He was a rainmaker, and the clouds were his kin. In his village of Amafor, nestled in the green hills of the east, they said he was born with a storm in his soul and a river on his tongue. When the planting season arrived and the ground was thirsty, the people of Amafor would not despair. They would gather at the village square, their faces turned towards the small hut where Okechi lived. He would emerge, his staff of Irako wood in hand, his gaze fixed on the heavens. He would not shout, nor would he dance with abandon. He would simply chant, his voice a low hum that seemed to pull the moisture from the very air, weaving it into clouds that gathered like obedient children. From the market at Nkwur to the fishing village by the great river, people spoke of the man who could bargain with the sky. His gift was not for show. It was a sacred pact, a promise to his people that the yams would grow plump. The cassava leaves would stay green, and the children would never know the sharp pang of a rainless year. But as with all great lights, Okechi's gift cast a long shadow, and in that shadow, envy began to grow. Not far from Amafor, separated by a thick forest at a shallow stream, was the village of Amoa. Amoa was known for its fierce wrestlers and its proud, wealthy traders. They were preparing for their great New Yam Festival, a celebration meant to display their prosperity to all the neighboring lands. They had the finest dancers, the most decorated masquerades, and pots of palm wine that could make a man sing for 3 days. However, a problem loomed larger than their tallest palm tree. The sky remained stubbornly clear. The sun beat down without mercy, baking their farmlands until the soil cracked like old pottery. Their diviners had failed. Their sacrifices had gone unanswered, and the elders of Amoa grew desperate. Their festival would be a thing of shame if their yams were thin and their harvest was poor. A chief, his brow furrowed with worry, spoke what was on everyone's mind. Amafor celebrates their harvest while ours withers on the vine. It is because of their rainmaker, Okechi. And so, a plan, dark and twisted like the roots of a mangrove, was formed. They would not ask for rain. They would ask for its absence. 3 of Amua's most cunning elders were chosen for the task. They traveled under the cover of a moonless night, their feet silent on the forest path. They carried with them not spears or machetes, but gifts designed to poison a man's soul. They brought a goat with skin as white as river foam, 10 lengths of the richest aquite cloth, and a small heavy leather pouch that clinked with the sound of manillas, a fortune that could build a man a new compound and buy him a title. They found Okechi sitting outside his hut, watching the stars as if they were old friends. He greeted them with the caution of a man accustomed to the quiet of the night. The elders presented their gifts, their voices smooth as palm oil. "Great Okechi," the eldest one began, "we come from Amoa. The sky does not grant favors for trinkets," he said, his voice firm. "It gives what the land needs. We do not ask you to make rain." The second elder said, pushing the clinking pouch forward, "We want our celebration to be the grandest in the land, untouched by the shadow of Amafor's harvest. Keep the skies clear for us, and this, and more, will be yours." A cold silence fell, broken only by the chirping of crickets. Okechi looked at the goat, at the vibrant cloth, and at the pouch of manillas. He had lived a life of service, his only wealth the gratitude of his people. For the first time in his life, the sacred pact he held felt less like a gift and more like a chain. The whisper of what could be, the respect that came with wealth, the comfort for his family, slithered into his heart. He thought of his ancestors, their faces stern in his mind's eye, warning him that the seasons were not threads to be rewoven by mortal hands. But then he looked at his own calloused hands, hands that had only ever held a staff and a hoe, and the weight of the manillas seemed to press down on his resolve. He remembered the quiet pity in the eyes of wealthy traders when they saw his simple hut. "The sky has been generous to my people this season," Okechi said, his voice barely a whisper. He was not speaking to the elders anymore, but to himself. justifying the betrayal that was already taking root. A short dry spell will do no great harm. The elders from Amafor smiled, a slow, knowing smile. They left the gifts and melted back into the night, leaving Okechi alone with his new riches and a heart suddenly heavy as stone. The next day, a farmer from Amafor came to him. "Okechi," he said, his face etched with concern, "the air is too still. The clouds are gathering at the horizon, but they refuse to come closer. The yams are thirsty." Okechi, avoiding the farmer's gaze, waved a dismissive hand. "The sky has its own time. Have patience." Days turned into a week. The sun grew hotter, more relentless. The leaves on the cassava plants began to curl and yellow at the edges. The stream where the children played shrank to a muddy trickle. Whispers started to spread through Amafor. They had never known a dry spell so sudden, so unnatural. The elders of the village approached Okechi, their faces grim. "The land suffers," their leader said. "The pact is broken. What have you done?" Okechi, his guilt making him angry, struck his staff on the ground. "I am the Rainmaker. Do you question my connection to the sky? The rain will come when it is time." But his heart was a barren field. That night, he went to the sacred grove, the place where he always spoke to the clouds. He beat his ceremonial drum, but the sound was empty, flat. The sky remained a vast, indifferent canvas of stars. For the first time, his words found no echo in the heavens. The clouds he had once commanded now seemed to mock him from a distance. He had traded his gift for gold, and in doing so, he had silenced the very voice of the sky. The day of Amafor's festival arrived, and as promised, the sun shone brightly. Their celebration was indeed grand, filled with laughter and boastful cheers that carried on the dry wind all the way to Amafor. In Amafor, there was no cheering. The yams, when they were finally dug up, were small and withered. The harvest was a failure. The children's bellies began to swell not with food, but with hunger. The people looked at Okechi not with reverence, but with a mixture of pity and contempt. He had built a new wall around his compound with the money from Amafor, but inside it, his spirit starved. One evening, as Okechi sat alone, the white goat from Amafor let out a sorrowful bleat. He looked at it and saw not a symbol of wealth, but a mark of his shame. Overcome with regret, he took his Irako staff and walked through the silent, hungry village, all the way to the forest that led to Amafor. He arrived as their festival was ending. He stood before their elders, his frame stooped, his face a mask of grief. He did not need to speak. They saw the desolation in his eyes. He returned to Amafor a broken man. He gave away the cloth and the remaining manillas to the families most in need, but it was like offering a cup of water to a man dying in the desert. The harm was done. He had betrayed the sky, his people, and himself. They say Okechi never tried to call the rain again. He would sit for hours, staring at the sky, his lips moving in a silent apology that no one, not even the wind, seemed to hear. And from that day on, the rains in Amafor were never the same. They would come, but often too late, or too fiercely, as if the sky had not forgotten the betrayal and could no longer trust the words of a man. The story was passed down from one generation to the next, a haunting reminder that a gift from the heavens cannot be sold for the treasures of the earth, and that a broken pact with nature can echo in the silent, hungry cries of a village for years to come.